Another page of de Caussade's The Sacrament of the Present Moment. Are we ready to read?
I would much appreciate, hello?
Hello.
I would much appreciate if you could read it, because you have this
Yes, that's
voice
fine.
which gets to the essence of the text, of the wisdom. You're also a native English speaker.
Thank you. Well, before I start, I want to just connect very briefly with the page from yesterday. And one of the things that I thought about from yesterday to today
I haven't offended you, have I?
Not yet.
Because you said thank you, I thought that's something wrong that I said. But I didn't mean any negative connotation, just only positive.
No, there's plenty of time to offend me.
Thank you. Always say thank you.
Yes, thank you for thanking me for thanking you.
Because
so
we're friends. I'd like to symbolize as being friends, and when you say thank you, I tried to make a joke, and maybe it wasn't funny, and you said thank you. I thought, damn, did I say something wrong? But then you say, no, it's okay. No. Just that's the usual thing. Okay.
No, just the usual wrong stuff. Nothing new. No, I was thinking about from yesterday to today, and how we could bring this into our real physical lives, so that we have the weekend coming up. It's Friday, saying like I have my ideas in my head of what I want to do. Like I need to go over to this restaurant. I need to go play. Okay, somebody's going to do parlay house, which is betting on sports events, illegal betting. I want to go over to hear this musician play. But those are my ideas that are in my mind. But what de Caussade suggests is that we should run our ideas and our decisions by God. So I would simply say this prayer.
Would you make a bet if I asked you to?
To read the chapter? Let me finish this one sentence.
Okay. Illegal betting, it caught my attention. Sorry, go on.
Okay, well, do you want to play some bet? You like illegal betting? Boxing?
Oh.
Okay, wait a minute. Just wait a minute. The prayer is, Lord, it's Friday. What do you will for me to do? What is your will for me to do? So I have my ideas, and you have your ideas of what you might do tonight or tomorrow or the next day. But if we were going to apply the wisdom of this book, we might ask that. So now you have a new idea. Do you think that that's God's will to get into some illegal betting?
No, that would be devil's experience into my ears. I absolutely, yes, I am absolutely sure of that. That wouldn't be God. That would be devil's whispering into my ears. But then again, I wouldn't want to go deep on that. So
let's just pause there and read the. Or did you want to ask me another question?
Sure, that illegal betting. Okay. We'll discuss that later.
Okay. So the ending of page 43 was, the ending for yesterday was, what he ordains for us each moment is what is most holy. Best. Now we go to page 43. All we need to know is how to recognize his will in the present moment. Grace is the will of God and his order, acting in the center of our hearts when we read or are occupied in other ways. Theories and studies, without regard for the refreshing virtue of God's order, are merely dead letters, emptying the heart by filling the mind. I really want to stop and discuss that part.
Okay. I actually make a few notes while you read that. Like real students, like you would be a professor and I would be a student. And while you were reading, I made a few notes and But I didn't expect that you'd like to stop and discuss that. I feel okay.
And I've also got my pen out. I've been a student and a teacher like my whole life, and I was just noticing how lately myself and a few other people have used the word empty. I feel so exhausted. I feel so empty. I feel so depleted.
Oh, I hear you. Because yesterday I felt empty.
Yeah, and what de Caussade is saying is that our God is a God of order, and that if we do something that is not ordered by God for our grace and salvation, it's even if we read books about how to be saved, even if we read, a novel about somebody that was saved or a poem, unless it is God's appointed time for us to read that, it could just be like a dead letter, and it would not reach your heart, but it would just like fill your mind. And I just know that I have so much stuff in my mind. One of the reasons I like to go have a couple drinks or go dancing or just go rage around is just to unload my mind of all the stuff that's in it.
Can I say something?
Sure, yes, jump in.
Yeah, you said gods of order, and I thought by gods of order you probably meant like opposite of chaos, because there is a gods of order and the gods of chaos. But by order, I mean, being an accountant, I love to say that everything like in our world is subject to balance. For instance, if the Earth gets to the sun a little bit closer or a little bit from farther away, the life ceases to exist. Same with your body temperature. A little bit higher or cooler, you're sick, you cannot function. So,
like
and I'm actually sure that. Yeah, absolutely. And like two opposing forces, and when they work toward each other, there is balance, and definitely that's what I can call God. How do you? How does that make you feel?
That makes me. I'm starting to feel better.
Right.
Also, if you think about.
Okay, next time.
Keep going.
Go on. No, go ahead.
Going.
I mean, I have about to listen to you. Your turn.
Okay, so the Tao, Tao, the Tao Te Ching, Taoism, the symbol is the yin and the yang, but it's not either or, it's both. So they're swirling around together. And even if you look at the world of fashion, an androgynous look has been popular for a while. Like, it's not very masculine, it's not very feminine. There could be a guy that would wear a pale blue shirt or a pale lavender shirt, or maybe a pocket kerchief that has like a little purple and pink pattern on it, or like linen pants. Like, it's not strictly male, it's not strictly female. Like, a lot of women wear like jackets, or they'll wear loose pants. So I'm just thinking of androgynous dressing is also kind of part of some kind of balance, And also, I don't know if they have this where you live, but when men grow their hair a little bit long and pull it up on the back of their head and make a knot, it's called a man bun, B-U-N. That look is like everywhere. Like it used to be a style that women, where they would pull their hair up kind of loosely and kind of tie it into like maybe a ponytail, or wrap the ponytail around there to be like a bun. But now a very, very popular look in the fashion magazines and like all over Dallas is the man bun. Have you ever? Do they have any man buns in
Russia?
In
no,
Russia?
No. But that's. I think that's maybe it's not. Maybe the time hasn't come yet. Maybe we will have. We'll start wearing bums.
Well,
right?
if you think about the whole idea of chaos, a very manicured fingernails, manicured hair, a very clean look is very ordered. But let's say you go out into the woods for a camping trip for 3 or 4 days, and your fingernails are not so clean, and you're digging around the garden, and you sit by the fire and smoke a cigarette. And when you come back to the city, like a lot of guys and girls go on like camping trips and go bicycling and hiking. So when they come back to their city life, they're a little bit dirty, a little bit wild. How does that make you feel?
I remember that when pandemic happened, everyone was chasing after the toilet paper. Pardon my French. And I thought, how would I say that? Because I'm not going to swear on air, but I thought, what's about the toilet paper? Why? Apparently, because when I was in the army, I've been around the block. Yeah, and the toilet paper wasn't like, but anyway, I concluded that somehow helps you to preserve your human dignity, because if you have the toilet paper and stuff like for the human elementary hygiene, you preserve the human dignity. And when you somehow find yourself in the forest or in the desert, however far away from civilization, that helps you to stay human, because otherwise, speaking of Charles Darwin theory of evolution, that's what confuses me, because human become animal like monkey, chimpanzee.
Yeah, we came from and also
but naturally, and the reverse process is like painful and harmful. The monkey cannot become human. In my point of view,
if we go to the zoo and we're walking around eating an ice cream or something, like that afternoon, the monkey's not going to become a human. But in the course of evolution, happen. Also, back to toilet paper, I know that in Dallas, baby diapers, toilet paper, and the liquor store, people wanted to be supplied with cases and cases and cases of beer, vodka, whiskey. These, if you just suppose you're going to the grocery store.
These things wouldn't help you to stay human.
Beer,
but
vodka?
Yeah, absolutely. Spirits, they would have somehow make you feel that everything is in order, but that would be a fake feeling, right?
Yeah, that's true. And also there was a lot of divorces and breakups and separations that happened with relationships, especially, if you are not leaving your apartment and you're working from home and you're drinking and, your wife's not even putting her makeup on and you're wearing the same T-shirt that you wore the day before because you don't have to get dressed up to go to the office. It's very interesting during the pandemic, the different stories I heard from real people, not online, just real people about like someone was going crazy because they said they were so upset because they couldn't go see their barber, and they just felt like fine if they couldn't go to the barber shop or get their nails done or not. Someone else was telling me that their husband was making them furious by wearing the same yellow T-shirt that he had worn the day before.
Mm-hmm. Because demons are everywhere. Trust me. That's why we have to pray daily, even if you're an atheist.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I have a note, which when you read the first paragraph, when you said, let's discuss this, and then I'd like to go back to it. And the line you said, the theories and studies empty your heart, that somehow spoke to me. Because the more I learn, the less I know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The more I learn, the less I know. Yes.
But then again, that doesn't mean I have stopped to learn.
No, I mean, learning is good. I don't think de Caussade is saying that learning is bad. I'm saying, for example, when we finish this phone call, I'm going to turn on the television. Maybe I'm going to go check my mailbox, or maybe I'm going to go up to the grocery store. We're going to do things in the physical world. But, maybe you're feeling like, well, maybe tonight, instead of watching TV, I'll just sit with my notes and just kind of like just look at my notes for a few minutes. Like, trying to figure out what is God's will for Friday night. It's Friday, isn't it? Yeah, we're still on Friday.
It is.
Yeah, and I know, I know that, I've read a lot. And another thing that's puzzling to me is like we've talked about Alan Watts before, and we've talked about Carl Jung and about Freud and about Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. Even though we've read some of these classics and we have some of our favorite passages or ideas, you come back to them 3-4 years later and you think like, well, I wonder why I didn't read that part, or I wonder why I didn't understand that, or you told me you picked up a book and you thought you should read it, get back into your library, and then you came across it 2 years later. It's like, maybe it was like Mark Twain or Hemingway or something, and you go like, you were just like so surprised at how it was really speaking to you in that moment.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's God's will that you didn't recognize it first. By the way, the paragraph you read, it had a line. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember the words "recognize His will," and I thought, how to know what is God's will and what is not.
Yeah. Well,
is there any simple way of how to know God's will? What do you think?
Okay, well, the process is called discernment. And the classic text on discernment is St. Ignatius of Loyola, on the discernment of spirits, and also St. John of the Cross. So the basic idea of discernment, or deciding, is this thing, person, book, activity, is it coming from God? Is it coming from the world, or is it coming from the devil? So if it's coming from God, this person or book or idea, if something is coming from God, it will be orderly. It will have some peace around it. If it's coming from the devil, then you'll be like overly excited, or like you're feeling really wound up, or you feel like, gosh, I need to go like to this parlay house and make some money. Oh, let me buy this on the way. Or like, wow, look at that girl. Like when stuff comes from the devil, it's always animated and like overly charged and kind of chaotic. So you ask, is something come from God, the world, or the devil? So if I say, man, I need to go get some gasoline in my car because it's empty, well, that's coming from the world, because like if I want to go anywhere and gas in my car, not that I'm any good at this, but I've read books on how to do it. So to know God's will, you have to stop and discern, where is this idea coming from? Is it coming from God, the world, or the devil? And then you just make your decision in that moment. And then you go another 15 minutes and you think like, I think I'm going to go eat ice cream. And you get up from your chair, you go to the kitchen, and you think, is this coming from God, the world, or the devil? You think, I like ice cream. It's just a worldly pleasure. Now, you don't want to go overboard with every single moment, like, it's time to go to sleep. Is this coming from God, the world, or the devil? Or like you're going to take a shower. Is this coming from God, the world, or the devil?
Absolutely. If you are unsure of what is coming from, maybe you call your friend, or anyway you can find advice. So seek counsel from the person you consider to be good.
Yeah, and if it's a reliable friend, like, if somebody invited me over to a swimming pool party and there's going to be like tons of liquor there, and it's like 110 degrees and everybody's already drunk, and they say like, we're cooking out steaks. Well, the attraction of going to eat a steak is nice, but do I really want to be around a whole bunch of strangers and everybody's already been drinking and they're in the sun, and somebody dropped a glass bottle and I'm going to step on a piece of glass just to eat a steak? No, I'm not going. Would you go?
I honestly wouldn't know.
It's a swimming pool party. A whole bunch of people are there. There's lots of drinks. It's warm. The swimming pool will be fun to jump into.
Honestly wouldn't know. Or
well,
rather,
I think you
wouldn't
want.
say.
Yeah, I mean, I just know I once said something like, when in doubt, don't go out. Like, I've also heard that from a spiritual director. It's always better to err on the side of less rather than on the side of more. Yeah.
Well, there is another saying that it's better to have and lost than not have and regret, or something like that. Don't remember the exact.
It's about love, yeah. It's better to have loved and lost, and rather than never have loved at all. But no one's going to love anybody.
That contradicts to what your spiritual director said to you.
No, no, no. This swimming pool party, it's not about love. It's about getting drunk and like, drowning each other in the swimming pool. No,
Okay.
no. She
So
was
no,
just
I
saying, like,
understand. If mhm.
I mean, the idea, like love is a general concept, but for example, I'm not really sure how to interact with somebody who has been out of the state for a while doing some stuff. Should I call this person right away? They've been gone. Like, should I try to get together right away? Like, should I call them first? The spiritual director would say, it's better just don't make the call. Let the person call you because you're really not sure what you want to do. So it's more like that, not in terms of love. If someone thinks that they love you and they want to continue a relationship, you shouldn't just say, like, oh, I don't know how I feel, so I'm deleting your phone number. No, I mean, what she meant was like, it's good to be a little bit cautious. Don't rush into things. But like, I'm very headstrong and bullheaded.
No, I've been there. I know. I hear you. Can you read next paragraph? Because we just discussed the one you wanted to.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay. This divine will flowing through the soul of a simple, uneducated person through her suffering or some exceptionally noble act in adversity carries out in her heart God's mysterious purpose without the thought entering her head. In contrast, the sophisticated man who studies spiritual books out of mere curiosity, whose reading is not inspired by God, but takes into his mind only dead letters and grows even more and more arid and obtuse. God's order or his divine will is the life of all souls who seek or obey it. So even if you can't find it, at least if you're seeking, de Caussade would say, like, good job, you're at least trying. In whatever way this divine will may benefit the mind, its blessed results are not produced by any particular circumstance, but by what God ordains for the present moment. What was best a moment ago is no longer best because it's removed from God's will, which has passed on to be changed to form the next duty in the next moment. It is our duty, whatever it may be. It is that duty, whatever it may be, that is now most sanctifying for the soul.
I'm thinking if I qualify for the sophisticated man who studies spiritual books out of mere curiosity, because I find some of the books very interesting, but I'm not sure if I read them out of curiosity or my reading is inspired by God.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that, but I thought I'd let you say. I'm not the same way. I'm a sophisticated woman who's like really curious about a lot of things, and sometimes it's okay to read a book because you're curious, but like if you're not getting anything out of it, why keep doing it? The ending of page 43 starts a new section that's talking about establishing Jesus in our heart. If the divine will ordains that reading is the duty of the present moment, then reading achieves this mysterious purpose. If the divine will abandons reading for an act of contemplation, then that duty will bring a change of heart, and then reading will be harmful and useless. If the divine will reject contemplation and the like, it will establish Jesus in our heart with all the sweetness of contemplation would only prevent. So he's talking about sometimes God asks us to read something. Sometimes he asks us to contemplate his being. and sometimes he asks us to encounter our sinfulness, which would be confession. But those are three different ways of, figuring out the mystery of what's going on.
When
the
was
mystery
it? Do you remember what year was this?
Yeah, it's De Caussade was born in Toulouse, France. He was ordained a Jesuit in 1708. He was a spiritual director at a retreat house in Nancy, France. 1731, this is when he gave this. The notes for translation I'm reading is from his notes, 1731. 18th century, that's the age of reason. 18th century is the age of the Enlightenment. Locke, John Locke, Diderot. Diderot created the first encyclopedia. John Locke was the precursor of the French Revolution. So in the age of enlightenment, which held reason up as the highest good, that our mind was going to show us the way, De Caussade is saying, nothing wrong with reason, but let's see what God wants us to do. Yeah, it's amazing to me. This was written he didn't write it as a book. He wrote what he believed was a retreat for some nuns that had come on retreat. So he wrote this specifically, these notes. So I suppose it was, I don't know, maybe it was like a 10-day retreat, and every day he would get together his lecture, just like I'm reading. His little sermon, he would be reading. He'd be preaching or whatever. Yeah, 1731. That's 18th century.
You also sent me the scan of page 44. Would you like to go over it?
Yeah, I just want to finish this. It's just establishing Jesus in our heart. The mysterious growth of Jesus in our heart is the accomplishment of God's purpose, the fruit of his grace. Now we flip to the next page, and divine will. So now we've got the image of fruit. This fruit has been pointed out, forms, grows, and ripens in the succession of our duties to the present, which we are continually being replenished by God, so that by obeying them is always the best we can do. We must not offer resistance, but abandon ourselves to his divine will in perfect trust. So that's where the title of the book came from. The translation I have is called The Sacrament of the Present Moment. Another translation I have is called The Abandonment to God's Will. The divine will is infinitely wise, powerful, benevolent towards souls who totally and unreservedly put their trust in it, and who love and seek it, and who believe with an unshakable faith and confidence that what the divine will ordains each moment is best, who look no further afield for vain comparisons with any material benefits God's order may bring. So we can just, end it with that paragraph.
I like the worst one. We must offer no resistance.
It's
somehow
trust.
That's not what we do as humans. We offer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Offering no resistance is like if a mother tells the little boy, okay, here's your medicine. You have a bad cough. Here's your medicine. The little child doesn't read the medicine bottle, doesn't challenge the credentials of the doctor. A little 8-year-old boy just trusts his mom and takes his medicine. He's going to get better. Or, if someone says, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's going to hurt you. Don't ride your bicycle on that rocky road. The little boy might ride the bicycle. He might not. But basically he trusts his dad and he doesn't ride the bicycle. So offering no resistance goes along with the word trust. If we believe that God's will is good, then we should probably trust that he knows what he's doing. Right? Because I sure don't know.
These apps. So it sounds like
it's clicking off.
It's what?
Say that last sentence again. It kind of clicked off.
No, I said that this episode sounds like a sermon.
Yes, and I was explaining to you that he actually gave these. We're reading it as a book, so I'm sitting in my chair reading it out loud, and I've got my pencil, and you're sitting in a chair taking a few notes, as if I'm like maybe a teacher and you're like a student. But de Caussade was giving thoughts about how to live a holy life and to find more peace and joy in your life, because these women that had come on the retreat, but he was the retreat master, and many different people came, individuals, priests, married couples, teachers. So a retreat that he gave on what he probably figured out God wanted these people to maybe hear. So he didn't sit down with us. Yeah, me too. As I'm reading this, I keep thinking like they say, holy cow or holy moly, like, wow, like, could it be this easy? Could it be this difficult? Like, it's both easy and difficult, because really, I want to do this, but there's part of me that's like, nah, I don't want to do this.
Do you think that it can be considered a self-help book?
I have actually, it was in a bookstore at a retreat center where lots of people come in Houston. I also suggested in Dallas that we read this as our next reading book. And the person that was in charge of that prayer reading book said that's too sophisticated for our group. So I deferred to her authority. Yeah, I mean, self-help, the general category. Like if you go to the bookstore under self-help, it's going to be like, how to find a mate, like how to lose weight, like, what to do with balding, what should you do to dress according to your skin tone? Like self-help is, I kind of think of it as more practical. This book would never be filed under self-help. It would be filed under mystical classics. But it is self-help. It is self-help. Like we are helping ourselves and each other by reading this.
Yeah, because sometimes self-help books can be about how to fight boldness. I feel like I'm looking for the next phase in my life, and I'm looking for a self-help book, which is supposed to be a help in my search for what I want to do next. I don't know, where I'm looking for something to make myself feel better spiritually, and in that case, I would probably go after it. Mind you, you don't just go through this phase one, because there are many.
Well, there's lots and lots of books on like improving communication with your children, or like what to do now that you're divorced, like, how to start dating, at 50, or, what should you do if you think you're gay? Like there's a lot of different, very timely and good books that are out there.
Do you know any self-help book that actually helped?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, okay. Well, what have I found helpful? I have found some of the books by Thich Nhat Hanh helpful. I've found some of the writings of Alan Watts helpful. I've found some of the writings of Carl Jung helpful. I find the archetypes in the Greek myths helpful, but I usually talk about those with the person. So I would go in and talk to Father Don, or I would go in and talk with a friend who's also reading these things. So what's amazing to me is that I've read this book before, and like, how did I forget the wisdom that was in it? That's what I'm worried about. Like, how do I forget? Like, I mean, you've read Alan Watts, like.
Yeah, but I feel stupid next to you, because I didn't understand a lot from them, but it cheered me up enormously. The self-book that actually helped was something like The Art of Seduction or stuff. But I was young and I was, but now, no, now I wouldn't even just get close to it.
No,
Because
the
no
thing
one's like the
is
sex
that,
parties.
what I like about what I just read was that de Caussade says those who are both doing God's will and those who are seeking to do his will. So that gives me hope because I don't understand it all and I don't understand what I'm doing, but I desire to be more holy. I desire to be more peaceful. I desire to be a better mom. I desire to be a better friend. Like the desire is there. And I think God honors the desires of our heart. Some wise person told me that, like, I mean, like the fact that you are desiring to lead a more meaningful or more peaceful or more moneyed or whatever it is you want in this next phase of your life. Oh, well, I think you should give yourself credit for that. I'm not joking. The fact that you desire to blindly live the next 10 years.
Yeah, sorry, the line dropped, I guess, for a second. But anyway, if you can hear me, I'd like to continue. You have heard of the name Jordan Peterson?
Is he like a friend of Elon
No,
Musk?
he's Canadian.
Yes. But go ahead, tell us about it.
No, apparently he has this book that everyone appreciates. It's called 12 Rules for Life. 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I tried to read it like 10 times. I haven't gotten further than the rule 3, I guess. I don't remember what the first 2 are. And what I'm trying to say is that probably it's very individual. It's like you said in the beginning of our conversation, like you buy one book and then it's just put it on the shelf for the next 10 years and then you open it when you're 50 and think, silly me, why didn't I just read it when I was at school? It's like
I think that the 12 rules for life, another aspect, another way to use discernment is this is like a real core thing. You judge a tree by its fruits. So, for example, you're reading the 12 rules of life, you're reading it, it's producing no fruit. You keep putting it down, you keep putting it down. So that method of discernment, you are wisely putting it down. That's not for you right now. Also, remember there was the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Covey. I was teaching at a Catholic school when that came out, and the assistant principal, who was married to a lawyer, anything that has to do with lawyers, kind of a buzzword for me, but she went ahead and bought all these copies of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And we were all supposed to read it, and then we were in small group discussions. Then I was like furious. You know why? I was furious because they deducted from our paycheck, $10 for this book. I didn't want to read the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. So back to your comment about, well, have I heard of Jordan Peterson? Maybe that's just not for you right now. Like maybe this book, Sacrament of the Present Moment, is for you right now. Or maybe a short story by Hemingway.
Yeah, I like that short story we read, The Cat in the Rain. Somehow it spoke to me.
Yes, and so there was some fruit in that reading. You gave you something to think about. You felt maybe like you were the cat, or maybe you were the man, or maybe you were the woman. Like I noticed that when we read it, well, sometimes I felt like the cat. Like it's always like raining. I'm just
really?
like trying to get
you
out.
Associated? No. Pause a second. You associated yourself with the cat in your story? Because that would have never happened to me. I thought if it was me, I would have said it myself with George or however the name of the husband was.
Yeah.
But the cat, I thought you'd be associating yourself with the woman.
Well, I did, but I'm saying I also the woman connects with the cat to explore something about herself. So the cat is like, I just know that she's standing there, and then she sort of feels vulnerable. She doesn't like her hair so short. He's not really paying much attention. You know, she just wants to be at her own little home and have her table and her china and silverware and to be at home, and they're on some like big adventure, and she just kind of feels a little bit displaced, kind of like this cat who's just like wants to get into some shelter. So I felt kind of like, I mean, I feel like a cat a lot. Because cats are nocturnal. But you feel like a man. That's good. That's good. Let's go
why
with
is
that.
Why is that there is stigma against women who have lots of cats?
Well, there's a couple different things. Like, I read a little article once that said, "Are you a witch? Do you have a cat? Do you grow herbs? Do you do prayers and incantations? Do you have a cape? Do you have a wand? Do you have like all these things? Do you you have a black pointed hat?" Like, I suddenly realized I was a witch. No. But I'm saying that, or like in Spanish, curandera is like a magic person. So, you know, when you say, what's the exact wording of your question?
Yeah, I thought, why is there a stigma against women who have lots of cats? Because if I'm a man, I have lots of cats. No one says me.
The seductress, well, like, you know, like we have Eve who handed Adam the apple, but before Eve, there was somebody else. It was Lilith, and like the dark woman, the shadow woman, the lady of the evening, someone who works at a strip club or as an escort. The dark woman is dangerous because the dark woman can lead you into temptation. Like if you think of the Lord's Prayer,
they burned witches at the stake in the Middle Ages. But and on Anton Chekhov, I read it a few days ago. I came across this Chekhov story. I think that was a translation from Spanish or Portuguese. I don't know. Very interesting one. I don't remember what title was, but that was about how one sailor married this dark woman or dark brown woman associated with which.
Yeah, and I think like a woman in general, if you look at like the Starbucks logo was the mermaid, and then the mermaids, you know, in the Odyssey, they lure him off his journey to get back home. Like, you know, generally the seductress generally has long hair and like cat eyes, like eye makeup with eyeliner, and like a plunging top or no top at all, because like the mermaids are not wearing tops. So the idea of the woman who's a seductress is dangerous for a man. It's temptation. But, you know, like you said, temptation is all around us. And I think that when you're in a relationship, first of all, there's some seduction. So you might want to call it dating or foreplay or like whatever you want to call it. Like you see somebody at a coffee shop or you see somebody at a party, like, wow, she's like really cute. And then she kind of looks at you like, I think you're really cute. And then you like wander over there and start talking to her and you have a drink. And before you know it, you're married to this person who's like a witch. Like I know so many people, you know, I mean, I got married to someone because I liked the way he ate cake. Like how insane is that? Like this guy loved the way this guy eats cake. He's very passionate about life, and this guy would be a great person to be with. Like, wrong. Note to subscribers, do not get married to someone based on how they eat cake. I'm joking, but I'm not. I'm not joking.
No, I'm trying to understand, to recollect. To recollect the essence of the Chekhov story about that young woman whose life falls into the hands of two very misguided men. First was your husband, and the second was some kind of priest in Barcelona, if I'm not mistaken, who was like the
No, I
main
remember one story you had.
inquisitionist.
I remember you had read a story in Russian and on a different channel, and I just looked it up in English. And there was one story about this woman who somehow got married to this man, and the man was kind of serious and a good provider, and she just got super excited about all the things that he could do for her, and she would go to parties and she would go out with other people, and then somehow she understood that he was sick, and she would bring other people by to see her dying. Did she barely understood what he meant? Was that the same story?
No, I guess the one I'm trying to recall now was about some kind of a fable. I'm not sure if it was original in Spanish or not, but about the fate of a woman who had the misfortune to cross some monk in Barcelona in the Middle Ages, in bygone days. But she was particularly lovely woman, and it was, I guess, it was an evening, and he thought that she aroused his or deadly wrath because he thought she was a witch, because he saw the dog or maybe a cat that she thought was her, and yeah, I think he was a misogynist, and he accused her of witchcraft. How did that make you feel? Because Spanish Inquisition and stuff.
What do you think
About that? I don't know why, but he wrote that in his.
But see, he accuses her of witchcraft. It's like his fault that it's her fault that he's aroused. So that's called reaction formation. He doesn't accept that he's participating in this situation, and so he says it's all her fault. So that's called reaction formation. You blame the other person. Like, she's such a witch. She's such a bitch. This is why I have to go out and like find somebody else. Like, I have to go out to the bar. Like, this person's making me crazy. I'm gonna go find another person. Like, you know, if somebody makes me mad, but if you think about this from de Caussade, if I'm acting out of anger, is that, like, anger is a natural emotion, but the action on it, going out like hours and hours and hours, just randomly drinking with different people and just being stupid, that's probably not.
No,
that's probably
no,
not.
but let me explain to you my point again. The point of this story, the punchline, I'm trying my best. So, anyway, I'll try my best. So I think that the monk who thought she was a witch called upon her husband and told him that he must bring her up for inquisition. And husband said or thought, no way, I'm giving them my wife. So he hidden her on some kind of a ship. But then again, he was a very religious man, and he wanted to have this what they called absolution from sins or something received. Right. And he thought, well, I don't want to give them my wife, but I also want to receive absolution from them. Well, so what do I do? And so he was stupid, probably, the sailor, or I don't know what his profession was. He poisoned his poor beautiful wife, received absolution for the sins, and he was forgiven. But yeah, that's what struck me most, because
well, yeah, and that is very much
Chekhov wrote it when he was 21. I'm not sure if he made it up himself or maybe read it somewhere in Spain.
Well, probably what he did is he probably took that idea, because like in the story of Romeo and Juliet, as told by William Shakespeare, this archetype of the feuding families, and it later became a musical West Side Story, the feuding families where the princess of one falls in love with the young man from another, and then when they try to get together, there's a monk in Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare's version. There's a monk who tells them to come to this chapel, and uh, up some kind of potion, and Juliet takes the potion and it just puts her to sleep. But it's not going to kill her. Then Romeo runs to the chapel or the little garden gazebo or something and sees his beautiful Juliet laying there as if she's dead. And he thinks, well, if she's dead, I don't want to live. And then he gets a dagger, like stabs himself. And then Juliet wakes up like, well, where's Romeo? Like, it's kind of in there. Do you remember Romeo and Juliet?
Well, my history is a little hazy, but yeah, of course I'm acquainted with this like historical poem by William Shakespeare, right? See, I'm smart
it's
too.
A play.
But
play.
Yeah, I think what struck me most was Romeo was 8, mistaken, and Juliet was even younger.
The call is like breaking up. What was the last sentence you said?
No, I'm not sure if the recording will end up well, but yeah, the call breaks up now and then. I told you that what surprised me was that Romeo was like age 13 or maybe 12, like very, very young, and Juliet was even younger.
Yeah, I think they were like I think they were like like no more than 14 or 15. But
yeah, exactly. So they killed.
It was well, Tybalt. Tybalt is wounded, and Tybalt comes to defense of Romeo, and there's this street fight, and I know that wealthy families, children were promised to each other. Like, parents want, especially in, this is set in Italy, these wealthy families, they need to find a suitable husband or wife that's going to preserve the land and the money. So the marriages were kind of, it was a habit for people to start looking at girls and boys like, well, she looks pretty good like at 12. Let's see what she looks like at 15. Or like, well, that guy can sword fight, and he looks great in tights, and he's from he's from the Capulet family,
Exactly.
So
because marriage was considered a business transaction between two families. Now it's about love.
Well, yeah. The other thing is,
how does that make you feel?
Well, I know that Tina Turner, who recently passed away, has a famous song that it's just a secondary emotion. That the primary emotion is lust, and then love is a secondary emotion. But I don't know, I think that parents want their children to marry well. So I remember advising my daughters, I don't even want to talk about any boy at all until you get some letters behind your name. Like, don't talk to me about wanting to become MRS, married. I want to see some letters behind your name, like a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, go to law school, go to medical school. I didn't specifically tell them where to go, but I said that young love is ridiculous.
Hey, I found this, sorry to interrupt. I found this Chekhov story, Amazon website. It's called Sinner from Toledo. So, Toledo is a town in Spain, I think, or in Portugal. I'm not sure.
Yes, yeah.
Apparently, someone translated it, and the Kindle price is $0. It's British pound, I guess. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a UK site. Yeah, it's probably Amazon.co.uk. I'm not sure if they sell it at Amazon.com at US, but
well, we can. Anyway, I think we can find it, and we can.
From Toledo.
Well, I think we can find it. I think we can make another episode on that one too. I love all the Chekhov short stories, Hemingway short stories.
Really?
Who was the other guy?
Yeah,
Borges.
I'll try to. I'll look up the English translation.
The Sinner from Toledo.
I'm sure I have. Yeah, I guess I have all Chekhov story translated back in my home in my computer. I'm sure this one should be there too. And if I find it, I'll I'll forward that one to your email or to your, and we'll discuss this. That would be great, because it really spoke to me. Maybe that will fall close to your heart as well.
Yes, or forward it to Tony Carnes along with money.
How is it doing, by the way?
Tony Carnes is doing great. I love his artwork. He's doing a lot of sketches that start off with the general shape of the body. Then he does cross hatching, and then he puts in color. He's very patient. He's trained in art history and in painting, and he.
How come we don't? I mean, invite him to our conversation. Maybe just 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe he'll be able to open up.
Well, two or three. I don't know, 2 months ago, I asked him, he said he's just not in a good space because, he had some deaths in his family and stuff. But I'm saying he's doing more drawing and painting and stuff now. I think he'd be open to that. And also, we have Mark Stevens, who has become semi-famous train guy who is now also available for interviewing. He has announced. So, no, I think people are, like their creativity comes and goes. Like sometimes I love writing poems and I'm writing a lot. Or like you said, you tinker around with music every now and then. You're kind of working on a couple little songs. Or I just think that creativity is part of. I mean, I think it's God's will. I would say that writing is a gift that I have, and that I always like to do that. And I think you have said that in the past, just playing the piano mandatory was never any fun, but you might like to, buy a drum or bongos or something. So, I will talk to Mr. Carnes and see what he says. I think that'd be a great idea.
Well, our conversations, what we call quote unquote therapy, often go very well. But somehow I'm falling upset after therapy. Has that ever happened to you?
You become what?
Upset for no reason.
Yes. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I was at a session with someone here in Dallas, and it was a rainstorm, and I just kept thinking, like when you're in therapy, someone's listening, someone's pausing meaningful ways. They're helping you to bring up things you might want to work on. And then when the therapy session is over, like I just walked out into the city again, and it was like I'm alone, so abandoned.
Exactly, because imagine that you have your favorite therapist, and you think, wow, I have a relationship, again, quote unquote, but generally speaking, most therapists won't be able to have a relationship with you when the therapy ends. Because all relationships come to an end, and with therapists specifically. And if they mean a lot to us, that really hurts.
Well, the other thing too is that if they leave the parish and go someplace else, also the therapist if they're a therapist on staff, they're dealing with hundreds of people. It'd be like you're with someone, you think you're like, I feel so special when I'm with you, and then the person says, I make everyone feel special.
Yeah, that hurts. That really hurts.
No, it does. It really does, because I had a very good conversation with this therapist, and it's happened before in Houston when I had a therapist who was on staff at a parish, and I was kind of going through some family divorce stuff and trying to deal with a bunch of family stuff. And I just remember, I would probably like to get a sleeping bag and just sleep in the waiting room, and then when she comes into her office the next morning, there I would be. But I kept thinking, no, that's crazy. But the challenge of therapy is to take it into the world and do it, do something with it. Like if we're learning about God's will, and if we're learning about maybe reading this Chekhov story, there is always a letdown, like when you hang up the phone or when the session's over. And we've said this before, that a traditional therapy session is 55 minutes. So if you're in a more formal therapy session where you're paying, when the therapist, you're getting ready to tell some other really deep, meaningful thing, I mean, you don't realize that they've got a clock right behind your head on the wall. It's like, Well, thanks for sharing. I think we're ready to wrap this up.
Yeah, and now I go and sit in the dark and have some Irish whiskey with me.
That sounds great. That sounds good. I want to go to the store and buy some ice cream so that I can put whiskey on it. That sounds good. Or maybe I'll buy a banana.
Can you ring that bell?
I can ring the bell. And I believe that God is calling me to ring the bell.
God's will. Amen, brother.